Ladies, let me tell you something right now. You want to know the moment a man's mask slips. You want to know the moment the truth comes crawling out of him, whether he likes it or not. It's not when you argue with him. It's not when you beg him. It's not when you cry. It's when you go quiet, silence. Oh, baby, silence is the loudest thing a man can hear. You see, when you shut your mouth, when you stop chasing, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop repeating the same questions, you strip away his comfort. You leave him sitting there not with your words, but with his own conscience, and that's the one voice he can't run from. Men don't like silence. Not when it comes from a woman they know they've been playing, disrespecting, or taking for granted. Because your silence is not empty. It's pressure. It's reflection. It's a mirror shoved in his face. He can ignore your words. He can talk over you. He can dismiss your tears, but he cannot dismiss the echo of your absence. That's when the truth starts leaking out. That's when his actions, his patterns, his intentions reveal themselves. Silence forces him to show you who he really is without you lifting a finger. And ladies, that's the beauty of it. Silence ain't weakness. Silence is strategy. Now let me break this down for you, because some of y'all need this like oxygen tonight. If you truly want to see what a man is made of, don't raise your voice. Withdraw it. Don't chase. Step back. Don't argue. Go still. Because in that silence, his truth will speak louder than any excuse he's ever given. Silence cancels the show, ladies. Let me put it to you straight. Men know how to perform when they know they've got an audience. They know how to say just enough to keep you hanging on. They'll hit you with the good morning. Text. Sprinkle in an I miss you every now and then. Show up with a smile when they feel you pulling away. That's not love, that's performance. That's him acting out a role because he knows you're watching. And let me tell you, every performance only works as long as the audience keeps clapping. Now here's the raw truth: when you stop clapping, when you stop engaging, when you stop talking, his performance is over. The lights go off, the curtain falls, the stage empties. Silence cancels the show. And that's when you see the difference between a man who was in the play for real and a man who was just running lines he rehearsed. I've seen this happen over and over. You're texting a man paragraphs, pouring your heart out, trying to explain how you feel, and he's giving you one-word answers. Okay, cool, bet. He ain't invested, but he knows you are, so he lets you carry the script. But the day you stop sending those long messages, the day you stop reminding him you exist, suddenly the silence gets heavy. He realizes there's no show tonight. And here's the beauty of it. You don't have to say a thing. He tells on himself and how he reacts to that silence. Think about it like this. If you're at a comedy show and the comedian bombs, people stop laughing. Once the laughter stops, the truth shows up. The man ain't funny. Same thing in relationships. When you stop giving the energy, when you stop feeding his ego, when you stop playing along, the truth of who he is shows up. Was he really into you? Or was he just into the attention? Did he love you? Or did he just love the way you made him feel important? I remember counseling a young woman who kept telling me, Steve, I don't get it. Every time I pull back, he comes back with flowers, with sweet words, with promises. But then as soon as I let my guard down, he goes back to being cold. You know what that is? That's performance. That's a man stepping on stage when he sees the seats filling up again. But if you stay silent long enough, if you don't give in to the first act, you'll see that he ain't got a second act. The show ends, and so does the illusion. Silence is powerful because it reveals effort. Let's be real. When you argue with a man, he can feed off that. When you explain yourself, he can nod his head and pretend he's taking it in. When you cry, he can give you just enough comfort to keep you there. But silence strips away his ability to fake. Because now there's no script, no cues, no feedback from you. The only thing left is his genuine desire, or his lack of it. And here's the part most women don't realize. Men aren't as complicated as we like to pretend. If a man wants you, silence won't scare him. It'll wake him up. He'll feel the absence. He'll feel the missing energy. He'll step off the couch, put the controller down, and come running. But if he doesn't want you, silence won't change that. What it will do is expose it, clear as day. And that's exactly what you need, clarity. See, silence isn't punishment. It ain't about playing games. It's about refusing to waste your words on somebody who only claps when it benefits them. It's about saying, the show is over. If you want to be here, you better come real, without the lights, without the stage, without the performance. Because real love don't need an audience. Real love shows up even in the quiet, even in the silence, even in the dark. So the next time you feel yourself explaining, convincing, repeating the same thing for the 10th time, stop, step back, go silent. Let the curtain fall. Because when you cancel the show, you'll see who was acting and who was living the truth. And trust me, baby, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that knowledge, that clarity, that exposure, that's the gift silence gives you. Silence forces him to face himself, ladies. Let me break this down to you in the rawest way I know how. A man will do just about anything to avoid facing himself. He will work extra hours. He will drown himself in sports. He will stay glued to his phone. He will pick fights with you just to create noise. Because silence terrifies him. Silence leaves him alone with the truth. Silence makes him sit in a room with the one person he can't outrun himself. And trust me, most men don't like that mirror. See, when you're talking, when you're arguing, explaining, pleading, he can use that noise as a shield. He can point the finger back at you, flip the story, make it seem like you're the problem. That noise gives him cover. But when you stop, when your voice is no longer filling the space, now he can't dodge it. Now he has to hear the sound of his own decisions echoing back at him. That's when the silence starts pressing down heavy and he begins to feel the weight of what he's done. Let me tell you what silence does to a man who's guilty. It's like sitting in an interrogation room with no lawyer. The officer doesn't even have to say a word, just sits across the table, staring. That silence breaks people down quicker than yelling ever could. And when you, as a woman, choose silence instead of another fight, you put him in that interrogation room with his own conscience. He has to ask himself, did I push it too far? Did I break something that can't be fixed? Did I just lose the best thing I ever had? Now don't get me wrong. Not every man will admit it to you. Some men will pretend the silence don't bother them. They'll act like they're fine, scrolling on their phone, hanging out with the boys. But don't you believe that front for 1 second. Because when that door closes at night, when the TV's off, when the boys aren't around and the phone battery dies, that silence creeps back in. And in that quiet, he hears everything you ever said that he brushed off. Every warning, every tear, I can't do this anymore. Silence is the echo that doesn't let him rest. And here's the thing, silence don't just force him to face his mistakes. It forces him to face his feelings. See, men like to pretend we're logical, like we don't get emotional. That's a lie. We feel everything, we just don't like admitting it. So we bury it under distractions. But when you take your voice out the equation, when you stop reminding him of what he had, those feelings rise up. He starts to realize, damn, I miss her laugh. I miss her presence. I miss the way she made me feel like I mattered. And that's when it hits him. He's either got to step up or let go, but he can't ignore it anymore. I remember one of my boys telling me about a breakup he went through. He said, man, the hardest part wasn't when she yelled at me. The hardest part wasn't when she cried. The hardest part was when she stopped talking altogether. When I didn't hear from her, didn't see her name pop up on my phone, that's when I knew it was real. That's when I realized I messed up. That's the truth right there. The yelling is noise, the crying is noise, but silence is final. Silence forces you to look at yourself and say, what did I do? Ladies, you got to understand, silence is the one thing a man can't spin. He can spin your words. He can argue with your tone. He can deny your accusations. But silence is a mirror. Silence puts the spotlight on him with no script to follow, no excuses to hide behind. That's why it's so powerful. Because if he loves you, if he values you, silence will push him to confront that and come forward. But if he doesn't, silence will expose that too, and he'll crumble under the weight of his own indifference. Either way, the truth comes out. And let me say this plain, your silence doesn't just make him face what he did to you. It makes him face who he really is. Is he a man who can rise to the challenge of loving a good woman, or is he a boy hiding behind distractions? Silence don't lie. Silence strips a man down to his core. It's the test most men fail, but the ones who pass, those are the ones who step up, admit their flaws. So remember this, ladies, silence ain't just the absence of words. It's the presence of truth. And when you stop speaking, you give him no choice but to hear the one voice he's been running from all along, his own. Silence protects your power, ladies. I want you to hear me clearly on this one. Every single time you explain yourself to somebody who already knows what they're doing, you are leaking power. Every time you beg a man to understand your worth, you are handing him your crown. And every time you chase after someone who is showing you with his actions that he doesn't care, you're draining the very energy that makes you who you are. That is why silence is not just a choice, it's a weapon. Silence protects your power. See, here's the thing about women. Y'all are natural givers. You give your time, your love, your attention, your spirit. You give so much that sometimes you don't even notice when you're giving it to the wrong person. A man who'd even qualified to hold your hand gets access to your soul. But when you finally decide to go silent, you're putting the lock back on the vault. You're saying, you don't get to eat from me no more. You don't get to drink from my well. My energy, my love, my spirit that belongs to me first. And the second you do that, everything shifts. Because here's what happens when you don't protect your power. You run yourself rag trying to get somebody to see you. You over-explain. You send long texts that get ignored. You cry yourself to sleep thinking, maybe if you said it differently, he would finally understand. But let me tell you, if a man is determined not to see your value, no amount of explaining will change his mind. You're not dealing with blindness. You're dealing with choice. And that's the cold truth. Silence is the only language he can't pretend not to understand. Think about it this way. When a woman keeps talking, a man can keep dismissing. He can keep saying, you're overreacting, or you're too emotional, or we'll talk later. But when you go silent, when you stop showing up in his inbox, when you stop picking up on the first ring, when you stop being available every time he snaps his fingers, oh, that silence is loud. That silence screams, you no longer have access to my energy. And that is how you take your power back without saying a single word. Now let me give you an example. I knew a woman who had been in a relationship for 3 years with a man who constantly dismissed her. She begged him to change, begged him to listen, begged him to meet her halfway. He never did. One day she stopped. She went quiet. No argument, no fight, no long farewell text. She simply stopped. Within a week, that man was calling her 20 times a day. Within 2 weeks, he was showing up at her door with flowers. Why? Because the power he had been living off, the constant attention, the constant reassurance was gone. She locked the vault. And in doing so, she shifted the dynamic. He no longer had control because she took her power back by refusing to waste another word. But here's the part you need to understand. Silence doesn't just starve him, it feeds you. The moment you go quiet, you stop bleeding energy outward and start pouring it inward. Suddenly you have the strength to focus on yourself again. You remember what it feels like to laugh without checking if he's watching. You start dreaming about your future without factoring in his inconsistency. You start glowing because you're no longer drained. That glow is the power you always had. It just got buried under all that explaining. And let me be real with you, ladies. Men feel that shift. They may not admit it, but they feel it. When a woman pulls back her energy, a man feels the void like air getting sucked out of a room. Suddenly his comfort zone ain't so comfortable anymore. He notices the silence. He feels the missing warmth. And he realizes he no longer has the privilege of your presence. That's the kind of power silence protects. So don't ever mistake silence for weakness. It is not silence because you don't have anything to say. It is silence because you have said enough. It is silence because you value your energy too much to waste it on someone who refuses to honor it. It is silence because you finally understand that your peace, your joy, your spirit, that's royalty. And not everybody deserves access to a queen. When you go silent, you're not just shutting him out. You're letting yourself back in. You're protecting the fire inside you that was never meant to burn out, keeping somebody else warm. You are reclaiming your crown. And once you wear that crown again, baby, there is no man alive who can take it off without your permission. Silence separates the pretenders from the contenders. Ladies, let me break this down for you the way it really is. Silence is not just quiet. It's a spotlight. It's like flipping on the brightest light in the room and saying, all right, let's see who's real and who's just acting. When you stop talking, stop chasing, stop explaining yourself, that's when a man has to reveal exactly who he is. Your silence doesn't confuse the right man, it confirms him, but to the wrong man. Oh, it exposes him. See, a pretender is always comfortable when you're doing all the talking. When you're the one smoothing over the fights, keeping the conversations alive, trying to fix what he breaks. A pretender thrives on your energy because it keeps him from being accountable. He doesn't have to show up because you're showing up enough for the both of you. But the moment you shut your mouth and sit back in silence, that's when the mask starts to crack. I've seen it over and over again. A woman will tell me, Steve, when I stopped calling him, he disappeared. When I stopped explaining myself, he stopped asking questions. And I look at her and say, baby, he didn't disappear because you went silent. He disappeared because he was never really there. Your silence didn't push him away. It revealed the fact that he was never willing to stand in the light with you in the first place. That's the gift of silence. It draws the line in the sand between who was pretending and who was actually invested. Now, a contender is built different. When you go silent on a contender, he doesn't panic, but he also doesn't vanish. He leans in. He wants to know what's going on, what's wrong, what needs to be fixed. He doesn't just disappear into the shadows. He shows up in the light because your silence makes him realize something valuable might be slipping. And that's the thing about silence. It's not a weapon, it's a filter. It filters out the counterfeit men and leaves you with the ones who are ready to stand tall. You know what's crazy? Some of you ladies are afraid to go silent because you think, if I stop talking, he'll lose interest. Let me tell you something. If he loses interest when you stop talking, that's not a man losing interest. That's the truth revealing itself. That's you finding out he was never really interested in the first place. He was interested in convenience, in comfort, in what you were giving him. Silence pulls back the curtain and says, now let's see if you were here for me or just here for the show. Think about it like this. Imagine you're in a crowded room and two men are standing in front of you. Both are smiling. Both are talking the talk. Both are trying to impress you. But then the music stops, the lights dim, and the room goes quiet. In that silence, one man shifts his feet, avoids your eyes, finds an excuse to leave. The other man, he holds his ground, he looks you in the eye, and he stays. That's the difference. Silence removes the background noise so you can finally see who's got real strength and who's just running game. And I'll tell you something else. Men will always reveal themselves in silence faster than they will in conversation. A pretender can talk all day. He can promise you the moon. He can tell you he loves you. He can say you're his everything. Words are cheap, and pretenders spend them like pennies. But when you go silent, words can't save him anymore. It's action that counts. Does he call? Does he show up? Does he make an effort? Or does he fade out because the script he was reading from just got taken away? Ladies, I need you to understand the power of this. You don't have to beg. You don't have to chase. You don't have to explain yourself 1,000 times. Just go silent. That's when the separation happens. And yes, it may hurt when the pretender disappears, but trust me, it hurts less than wasting another year giving your heart to someone who was only playing a part. Better a quick truth in silence than a long lie in noise. Silence is not the absence of communication. It is communication. It says, I'm no longer entertaining what doesn't serve me. I'm no longer keeping space for someone who won't keep space for me. And that message, it lands heavy. A contender will step up. A pretender will step out. And you won't have to lift a finger to make that decision. It'll happen naturally because silence does the work for you. So the next time you're sitting there wondering if he's the real deal or just a smooth talker, don't argue, don't plead, don't fight to prove your worth. Just go silent. Watch, wait. Let his actions tell you the truth. Pretenders crumble in silence. Contenders rise in it. And your job is not to fix a pretender. It's to recognize the difference and make room for the man who can stand in the silence with you and still choose you every single time. Silence creates space for healing. Ladies, let's get real about something most of you have been avoiding. You cannot heal in the same space that broke you. You cannot keep pouring your soul into someone who drains you dry and expect to feel whole again. And that's where silence comes in. Silence isn't just about him, it's about you. It's the sacred space you create for your own heart, your own peace, your own comeback. Silence is where the rebuilding starts. See, when you're caught up in the noise of a toxic relationship, you don't even realize how much of yourself you're losing. You're arguing, explaining, defending, crying, begging. Every day it's a new cycle of chaos. And in that storm, there's no room for your healing, no room for your spirit to breathe. But the moment you go silent, you pull yourself out of that storm. You step away from the noise, and suddenly you can hear your own voice again. That's silence. That's where the healing begins. I've talked to women who've told me, Steve, I didn't realize how exhausted I was until I stopped trying to make him see my worth. And I look them in the eye and say, that exhaustion wasn't love, it was survival. Silence gives you back your strength because it stops you from fighting battles you were never meant to fight. You can't force a man to see your value. You can't force him to change. You can't force him to give you what he doesn't have. But you can choose to step back, get quiet, and allow yourself to recover from all that emotional bleeding. Silence creates room for reflection. When you're not texting, not calling, not arguing, you finally have time to sit with yourself and ask the hard questions. Why did I allow this? What patterns keep repeating? What do I really need in love? Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. It's the mirror you've been avoiding. And when you're brave enough to sit in that silence, you discover parts of yourself you forgot existed. The strong, confident, joyful woman who got buried under all that pain. And let's talk about peace. Ladies, peace is priceless. When you're in constant chaos, you forget what peace even feels like. You start thinking that the drama is normal, that the late night arguments and unanswered texts are just part of love. No, baby, that's dysfunction. Real love is calm. Real love is steady. And silence is how you start to reintroduce peace into your life. It's like detoxing your soul. At first, it feels strange. You're used to the noise, the back and forth, the emotional roller coaster. But give it time. That silence will start to feel like freedom. And once you taste that freedom, you'll never go back to the prison you were in. Now, let me tell you why silence is so powerful in healing. It interrupts the cycle. Every time you expand, every time you explain, every time you beg, you're feeding the same cycle that's breaking you. Silence breaks that pattern. It's you saying, no more. I choose me this time. And when you stop giving your energy to someone who doesn't value it, You finally have energy to pour into yourself. That's when you start picking up the hobbies you left behind. That's when you reconnect with your friends, your family, your dreams. That's when you start remembering that life is bigger than one man who couldn't love you right. I'll give you an image. Think of silence like a hospital room for your soul. It's quiet, it's still, it's intentional. It's not glamorous, but it's necessary. In that silence, wounds can close, scars can form, strength can return. If you keep ripping open the wound by going back and forth with him, how can you ever heal? Silence says, I'm going to let this wound breathe so I can walk out stronger than I came in. And here's the most beautiful part, silence not only heals you, it changes how you see him. When you step away, you start to realize that half the things you were fighting for weren't even worth the tears. You see him with clear eyes, not through the fog of constant drama. And most importantly, you see yourself again, not the broken version he left behind, but the powerful woman who chose to step back and rise. So don't ever think silence is just about punishing him or making him chase you. No. Silence is about giving yourself the gift of space, the space to heal, to grow, to find yourself again. It's the pause that saves your soul. And when you emerge from that silence, baby, you're not the same woman who walked into it. You're stronger, wiser, more grounded, and finally ready for the love you truly deserve. Silence speaks louder than words, ladies. Let me tell you something that a lot of men will never admit out loud. Silence is the loudest voice a woman can ever have. You think arguing gets his attention. You think begging makes him understand. You think repeating yourself for the 100th time is going to flip some magic switch in his brain. No. Words lose their weight when you've been screaming the same truth over and over and he's been ignoring it. But silence hits different. Silence is a statement he can't unhear, a presence he can't ignore, and a truth he can't escape. See, when you go silent, you send a message he can't twist. He can roll his eyes at your words. He can talk over your arguments. He can gaslight you into thinking you're too emotional. But when you shut your mouth and step back, he has no defense. Silence is powerful because it leaves him with nothing to fight against but himself. And trust me, that's the one battle most men don't want to face, because when it's just him and his own conscience in that quiet, the truth is deafening. I've seen women break their own hearts trying to be understood. They talk, they cry, they explain until they're empty. And the man still sits there like he doesn't get it. But the second she goes silent, the second she stops reacting, suddenly he notices. Suddenly he's asking questions, checking in, wondering why the energy shifted. That's because silence doesn't just speak, it shouts. It says, I'm no longer wasting my breath on you. If you can't see my value, you'll feel my absence. And don't get it twisted. Ladies, silence is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. Silence is strategy. It's the most eloquent way you can say, I know my worth, and I don't need to scream it for you to hear it. Think about it like this. The most powerful moments in music are not the notes, it's the pauses. That break between the sound makes you lean in, makes you listen harder, makes you feel the weight of what's coming next. That's what your silence does to a man. It makes him lean in, makes him notice, makes him realize the music has stopped because the singer, you decided she's done performing for free. And here's the truth. Silence makes him uncomfortable because it exposes what your words could never prove. If he was just coasting, silence makes it obvious. If he was pretending, silence pulls the mask off. If he truly cares, silence pushes him to step up and show it. That's why silence is louder than words, because it forces action. Words can be argued, twisted, ignored. Silence can't. It just sits there, heavy, undeniable, commanding respect. Ladies, the next time you feel yourself on the edge of explaining for the 100th time, stop. Just stop. You don't need another speech, another late night argument, another text thread a mile long. Save your energy. Go silent. Let the quiet speak for you. Let the distance deliver the message. Let him feel the weight of what it's like when your love, your laughter. Your presence is no longer filling the space. Because here's the bottom line: silence is not empty. Silence is full of strength, full of dignity, full of power. It says everything your words have been trying to say, but with 10 times the impact. And when a man is left alone with that silence, he'll either rise up and meet your worth, or he'll run away from it. Either way, the truth is revealed. And you didn't have to say a single word. Silence redefines you, ladies. I want you to understand something deep. Silence is not just about him. Silence is about you. It's about the woman you become when you stop pouring your soul into someone who doesn't value it. When you choose silence, you're not just stepping back from the noise of a relationship. You're stepping back into yourself. That's why I say silence redefines you. See, most of the time when you're in love, you don't even realize how much of yourself you're giving away. You're bending, you're adjusting, you're compromising, you're explaining, all in the name of keeping the relationship alive. And before you know it, you're a stranger to yourself. The things you used to love, the dreams you used to chase, the confidence you used to walk with, it all gets buried under trying to make him happy. But when you go silent, something powerful happens. You finally create the space to rediscover who you are without him. That silence is a reset button. It's a moment where you stop defining yourself by how much he texts, how much he calls, how much attention he gives. Instead, you start asking bigger questions. Who am I when nobody's clapping for me? What do I want when I'm not busy trying to please someone else? Silence forces you to look in the mirror and meet yourself again, the strong, beautiful, capable woman who's been there all along. And let me tell you, that's when everything changes. Because once you start hearing your own voice in that silence, you realize you don't need validation from him anymore. You don't need to beg for his attention. You don't need to chase his love. You don't need to lose sleep wondering where you stand. Silence reminds you that your worth isn't measured by how he sees you. It's measured by how you see yourself. And baby, when you finally see yourself clearly, you become unstoppable. Think about it. When you're quiet, when you stop running after him, you suddenly have energy to pour into your own life. That silence gives you time to dream again. Maybe it's a career goal you set aside. Maybe it's friendships you neglected. Maybe it's a passion you abandoned because you were too busy checking his phone, waiting on his text, fixing his mess. Silence gives you the room to pick those pieces back up. It gives you back your identity. And here's the truth. Silence will change how you carry yourself. You'll notice it in the way you walk into a room. Head high, no desperation, no neediness. You'll notice it in the way you look at him. You won't see him as your lifeline anymore. You'll see him as just one option in a world full of possibilities. That's the beauty of silence. It transforms you from a woman waiting to be chosen into a woman who chooses herself first. And let's be real, ladies, when you redefine yourself through silence, men notice they feel that shift. Suddenly, the woman they took for granted is no longer available to entertain foolishness. The woman they thought would always answer is now too busy living. That kind of silence is magnetic because it comes from confidence. It's not about punishment, it's about presence. Your presence in your own life. And when a man sees that he either steps up or steps aside, either way you win because silence has already redefined you. So don't fear the silence. Don't run from it, embrace it. Because silence isn't empty, it's full of you. It's full of healing, full of growth, full of rediscovery. It's the cocoon that transforms you from who you were into who you were always meant to be. And once you come out of that silence, baby, you don't just get stronger, you get redefined. Closing message, ladies, let me leave you with this right here. Silence is not weakness, it's not retreat, and it damn sure ain't surrender. Silence is power. It's your soul reclaiming the microphone. It's you stepping out of the circus and saying, I don't perform for free anymore. When you go silent, you are not losing. You are winning. You are creating space for healing, for clarity, for strength. You're giving yourself the chance to breathe again, to dream again, to hear your own voice again. Silence is the language of self-respect, and when you speak it fluently, everybody around you has no choice but to adjust. Understand this: when you pull your energy back, when you stop running after what doesn't value you, his true feelings are exposed. If he's a pretender, he'll vanish. If he's a contender, he'll rise. But either way, you'll see the truth. And truth, ladies, is freedom. Stop being afraid of what will happen if you go quiet. Start being afraid of what will happen if you don't. Because if you keep giving, keep chasing, keep begging, you'll stay stuck in a cycle that steals your joy. But the moment you go silent, you break that cycle. You take your power back. So walk out of here tonight with your head high and your heart steady. Don't fear the silence. Own it, let it heal you. Let it guide you. Let it redefine you. Because you are not a woman who needs to be heard in every argument. You are a woman whose silence is louder than thunder. And when you learn to master that silence, baby, that's when you become unstoppable.